ambitious overseas agenda taking him to the homelands of three faiths. What he hopes to accomplish, we're live in Riyadh this morning.
Ready to testify, former FBI Director James Comey now set to appear publicly before the Senate Intelligence Committee. As it's reported, President Trump described Comey as a nut job to the Russian ambassador. And the investigation into whether there was collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, how it's hitting very close to the White House, what ABC News has learned this morning.
Air scare, the terrifying moments when a passenger allegedly tried to force his way to the front of the plane.
It was just like draped over him like this.
Flight attendants and passengers leaping into action to restrain him. Fighter jets scramble.
And wedding of the year, Britain's royal family descending on this country church to watch Duchess Kate's little sister Pippa walk down the aisle with her multi-millionaire fiance. All the details of the lavish affair. Will George and Charlotte steal the show?
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Hey, good morning, and let's get straight to the breaking news. Donald J. Trump arriving in Saudi Arabia for his first foreign trip as president. This is a high-stakes, 8-day, 5-country mission, which the White House hopes might turn the page on the investigations and allegations raging here at home.
And speaking of which, overnight, as the president crossed the Atlantic, we learned that the fired FBI chief, James Comey, will in fact testify before Congress and do so publicly sometime after Memorial Day. Comey will almost certainly be asked about reports that he accused the president of asking him to shut down the investigation into former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn, as well as his ties to the Russians.
And that announcement about Comey's testimony came just hours after the New York Times reported that the president discussed Comey's firing during an Oval Office meeting with the Russian foreign minister, reportedly calling Comey a, quote, nut job.
Also this morning, sources tell ABC News that the investigation into potential Russian collusion has in fact reached the White House. An unnamed staffer close to the president is now under the microscope. We have team coverage this morning, but we're going to begin with ABC's Cecilia Vega, who is with the president in Saudi Arabia. Good morning to you, Cecilia.
Hey, Paula, good morning to you. This is an American first. Never before has a president set foot on Saudi soil for his first trip abroad. But that cloud of chaos that you were just talking about is following President Trump here, even though the White House is trying for a reset. Air Force One touching down in Saudi Arabia this morning, a red carpet welcome, even if it took a while to lay out that carpet and roll out those stairs. President Trump receiving the royal treatment, the Saudi king right there to greet him and the First Lady at the king's personal terminal, used exclusively for the royal family and their guests. For President Trump, first stop, ceremonial coffee with the king, the microphones picking up their chatter. Outside, the president greeted with streets lined in American flags. Giant billboards showing him and the Saudi king. A warm welcome here for President Trump in the capital city of Riyadh. You could see all of these flags on the city's streets, but it is not just that political chaos back at home casting a shadow on this trip. It's his comments from the campaign trail, too. From his thoughts on Islam.
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred.
To that Muslim ban.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
His first foreign trip jam-packed. 8 days, 5 countries, with stops at the world's great religious centers, from Saudi Arabia, the birthplace of Islam, to Israel and then the Vatican. An ambitious agenda, but the question this morning, how successful can President Trump be abroad with a firestorm back home? And tomorrow, the president is expected to deliver a big speech to the Muslim world, calling on it to end extremism. It was written by Stephen Miller. Paula, that is the same aide who helped on that travel ban.
In that speech, he's expected to preach religious tolerance. But I've got to ask you about that visual we've seen, Cecilia. First Lady Melania Trump is drawing some attention for not wearing a headscarf.
Yeah, and that is an example of the microscope that the president and the first lady are under a trip like this. But she is following in the footsteps of Michelle Obama, who also did not wear a headscarf during her 2015 visit. That was hugely controversial back then, seen as a sign of disrespect in this religiously conservative country. Among the people, Paula, who criticized Michelle Obama back then, Donald Trump.
Yeah, Cecilia, thanks for your reporting. We know you're going to be there for every step of the way on this trip. Thanks, Cecilia. And here at home, there's been no break from the controversy surrounding the investigation into possible Russian collusion, as well as the firing of FBI Director James Comey.
So for more on the fast-moving developments, let's go to ABC's Gloria Rivera, who's covering it all in Washington. Gloria, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Paula. That's right, no break in these controversies. And now, very soon, the public will hear from the man at the center of what can only be described as a coming showdown with the White House, James Comey. He is expected to testify sometime after Memorial Day on Capitol Hill.
Former FBI Director James Comey now agreeing to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee in an open public session. The announcement of his testimony coming just hours after a New York Times report alleging Trump described Comey as a nut job in a May 10th private meeting with the Russian ambassador in the Oval Office. Trump allegedly boasting, "I just fired the head of the FBI." The president also adding, "I faced great pressure because of Russia. That's taken off." Details of the conversation were included in an official White House document, which was read to the New York Times. Press Secretary Sean Spicer saying, by grandstanding and politicizing the investigation into Russia's actions, James Comey created unnecessary pressure on our ability to engage with Russia. Trump has acknowledged that the Russian investigation played a role in Comey's ouster.
The entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign.
But the president steadfastly denying he pressured Comey to ease off the investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn.
Did you at any time urge former FBI Director James Comey in any way, shape, or form to close or to back down the investigation into Michael Flynn? And also, as you look back...
No. Next question.
And ABC News has learned a current White House staffer is now part of the probe into whether there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians in the 2016 elections.
Officials have declined to name that person. The Washington Post, however, is reporting that it is someone close to the president. Dan, Paula.
Gloria, thank you. For more on all of this, let's bring in conservative commentator and ABC News contributor Tara Setmayer. Tara, good morning.
Good morning.
So we've got two big reports this morning, one from the New York Times on the president allegedly telling the Russians that Comey is a nut job, and one from the Washington Post saying this investigation now reaches directly into the White House. And the common denominator here is that both of these stories are based on leaks. And supporters of the president are saying this is another example of the deep state trying to take down a legitimately elected man. Isn't there some truth to that?
Well, I think that there's some truth to the fact that we should be concerned about the leaks. You know, let's not forget the Obama administration also went after leakers very aggressively. So I think that's a legitimate concern. How far you want to take this? I've seen some rhetoric about this is a coup from within, and I think that's a bit too much. However, it's not a binary choice, which I think is something that the right-wing media is presenting to their viewers and doing a disservice for that. There's balance here. Yes, we need to be concerned about the leaks and we should pursue them. However, that doesn't mean it diminishes the wrongdoing, perhaps, or what's going on, the chaos that's going on in the White House, self-inflicted by the president himself. I think that the idea of just constantly focusing on the leaks doesn't bring balance to the conversation, because there are considerable things happening in the White House with this president that need to be investigated, thus the special counsel, but that also he's not beyond reproach. These are self-inflicted wounds and should be criticized fairly as well.
And we know that James Comey is expected to testify publicly on Capitol Hill shortly after Memorial Day about what happened in those private conversations with the president. Do you expect there to be a bombshell when he's testifying? And also, another part to the question, shouldn't this kind of be seen as a breach of confidentiality? You know, doctor-patient privilege. Isn't this also a privilege and confidential conversation that he's having with the president?
Yes and no. Obviously, we always hear about executive privilege. It's one of those things in the White House that goes along with the job. And you need to have that ability to have privileged conversations to govern.
Sure.
However, when you have something, when the FBI director speaking to the president about an ongoing investigation, that is inappropriate. So James Comey taking copious notes about that, that's something that lawyers do, so, law enforcement officers in government, they're trained to do that because you can even have 302s, which is what they use with the FBI. That can be admitted into court as a legal document. So what James Comey did was absolutely appropriate, and the president's interactions with him seemingly are becoming more and more inappropriate. So hearing from James Comey in a setting on Capitol Hill, I don't think we're going to hear any bombshells because of the special prosecutor that's been named. The special counsel tempers everything a little bit. I think James Comey has felt that he's been defamed and that he needs to speak out somewhat. But for those who are waiting for a big bombshell, you're not really going to hear that now. You have an ongoing investigation with a special counsel that is very, very serious.
So Comey may feel constrained by the fact that he could possibly be a witness in that investigation.
That's absolutely correct.
So let's talk about, before we let you go, let's talk about this foreign trip that the president is on, his maiden foreign voyage as president. Can he do much to change the subject while overseas?
Absolutely. You know, the president is his own architect of his own demise or of his own success. And whether he's disciplined and stays on message while he's on this foreign trip will determine what happens here. There's a lot at stake. And this is an ambitious trip regardless, whether he had the chaos going on at home or domestically or not. It's an ambitious trip, but there's an opportunity here with Israel and Saudi Arabia, reinforcing our support for NATO, meeting with the G7. There's a real opportunity for the president here with his speech on Islam and terrorism, for him to turn the page. And the primary job of the president is foreign policy, national security, and this is where he should be able to shine. But that remains to be seen because we haven't seen him be very disciplined in the past. If he is this time around, then perhaps he could change the page and compartmentalize, which is what Bill Clinton did when he was under investigation, and still be able to push forward his agenda.
Tara, we know you spent a lot of time in D.C., former comms director in the White House. Thank you for your insight this morning.
My pleasure.
And we're going to be covering the president's first overseas trip all day long on ABC News, as well as abcnews.com. But we do want to move now to a disturbance on a flight from California to Hawaii.
Yeah, the incident so concerning that fighter jets were sent to escort the plane, and ABC's Matt Gutman is in Honolulu with what happened on board and the suspects brushed with the law before the flight even took off. Matt, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Paula. We now know that suspect's behavior twice raised red flags before that plane even took off from Los Angeles. But what scrambled those jets was his bizarre, disturbing mid-air behavior, apparently mumbling as he tried to force his way to the front of the plane wearing a blanket on his head and carrying a laptop.
This morning, this new video shows the moment FBI agents led Anil Ushkanil off the American Airlines jet in Honolulu. Minutes earlier, he was led cuffed down the aisle.
He was pretty disheveled.
Authorities say while Flight 31 was about halfway from Los Angeles to Honolulu Friday, Uskanil, a Turkish national, tried to force his way to the front of the plane.
He looked like he wasn't all there.
Passengers telling us he was carrying something.
He didn't have a laptop in the beginning. That's what he was holding.
With a blanket over his head.
Draped over him like this. I never saw his face or anything.
A flight attendant then spotting Uskanil moving toward the cockpit. According to the airline, the crew using a beverage cart to block his path. Almost immediately, a passenger jumping in. He was an off-duty LAPD officer helping restrain Uskanil for the rest of the flight.
We saw duct tape being tied. Yeah.
These F-22 fighter jets scrambled to escort the passenger plane to Honolulu as other pilots were told about the unfolding event.
We're canceling VFR departure right now for inbound emergency.
After Uskanil was escorted off the jet, passengers deplaned, lining up so officials and dogs could inspect their belongings. An explosives team sweeping the aircraft. But hours before Uskanil was booted off the plane, the shaggy-haired passenger was reportedly raising red flags, allegedly opening a secure door on the ground at LAX. He was cited, but allowed to board his flight to Honolulu anyway.
Now, those explosive units, they didn't find anything on the plane. Nobody was hurt, and the suspect is now undergoing medical evaluation as investigators try to figure out what he was trying to do on that plane. But with the laptop threats recently and those jets scrambled, Dan and Paul, you can imagine how terrifying it must have been for some of those 181 passengers on board that plane.
Absolutely. Matt Gutman, thank you for your reporting from Honolulu this morning. A lot of other news this morning, and for that, let's get it over to Ron Claiborne. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Dan and Paula. Adrian, good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. We're going to begin here in New York with new details about the man accused of driving his car onto a crowded Times Square sidewalk Thursday, mowing down pedestrians, killing a teenager, and injuring dozens of others. Prosecutors now say it was an intentional act, that the suspect, 26-year-old Richard Rojas, told them he wanted to kill all the pedestrians and that police should have shot him. Rojas has been charged with 1 count of murder and 20 counts of attempted murder. Also in New York, a former Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner pleading guilty to a federal obscenity charge for sexting with a 15-year-old girl. Weiner tearfully telling the court he has a sickness. He will now have to register as a sex offender. Weiner's wife, Uma Abedin, filing for divorce on the same day. He will be sentenced in September. And in New Orleans, crowds cheering as a crane took down a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. It's the 4th and final Civil War-era statue in that city to come down there since April. The city council in New Orleans voting to remove the statues. They voted in 2015, sparking a nationwide debate, some saying that the statues represent slavery and injustice, others saying that they have historical value. And in Minneapolis, a judge has declared that Prince's sister and 5 half-siblings will inherit the singer's multi-million-dollar estate. More than 45 people had come forward to claim rights to it. Prince's estate worth an estimated $200 million. Close to half of that will likely go to taxes. And in Wisconsin, take a look at this dash cam video showing a wild police chase between officers and 5 teenagers driving an allegedly stolen car through the suburbs of Milwaukee. The car goes onto sidewalks and through backyards, as you see there, and on the wrong side of the road at times. The suspects eventually caught and arrested. And finally, can anyone stop LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers? Can they, Paula?
No.
She's texting. The answer
no.
so far is no.
I was texting LeBron, telling him to back off.
Continuing their playoff dominance with a 44-point victory over the Boston Celtics last night, Dan, in Boston, setting several scoring records. The Cavs, that is, handing the #1 seeded team the worst loss in NBA history. They're crying there at Newton, Mass today. The final score, 130-86. The playoffs now shift to Cleveland for Game 3 Sunday. Eesh. The Cavaliers gunning for the 11th straight playoff win. Maybe the Celtics have some better luck, Dan.
Oh, my God.
See, Ron's singling me out because I'm the one person here from Boston, but I'm confident in the Celtics' ability to persevere. What were you doing texting in the middle of Ron's newscast?
I was actually texting with our executive producer. Is that okay?
Okay, fine.
I was actually texting Rob Marciano. Rob, did you get my text yet? Rob's in Dallas tracking all the severe weather and flooding moving through the South. Did you get my text message yet, Rob?
I haven't. If you said it this morning, no, I haven't. But, you know, keep it quiet when it comes to what's going on with the Cavaliers because, you know, this is Mavs country. And I know the Spurs are still in it. Hey, guys, down here because it's been just a hectic week across the plains with tornadoes. 100 of them reported in the last 5 days. And at one point, Dallas in a tornado watch last night. That line of storms has since moved through, and it's a pretty decent morning here in the Big D. Want to show you this tornado that touched down, though, in Medicine Lodge, Kansas yesterday, one of 20, so it was active as well. Not doing a whole lot of damage, but there was some damage done in Indiana. Sulphur, Indiana, there was a tornado, but in Salem, Indiana, look at this. This is the Blue River rising about 14 feet in just a couple of hours. Trailers being thrown downstream, bashing into the bridges. A number of water evacuations and rescues, and that river still high this morning. All right, here's where the storms are. They're east of Dallas, but into Memphis and St. Louis. That's going to be the hot spot today, and that's pretty much where the severe weather threat is going to be. And these are very high water content storms, so where it does storm, they'll be coming down heavily as far as rain goes and wind damage too. That's a quick check of what's going on nationally. Here now is your local forecast.
Hello, good morning, Washington. About 20 degrees cooler today. Highs only in the lower 70s. Now, we'll have a fair amount of clouds this weekend. Temperatures tomorrow even cooler in the upper 60s. And that kind of will continue over the next several days. Better chances for rain getting into early next week. See 70% chance for showers, maybe even a rumble of thunder on Monday. Highs in the mid 70s. That will continue the majority of the work week. Next best chance for rain next week, Wednesday and Thursday.
Paula, the last text I got from you was
don't
last
repeat
night's
it.
picture of you You accosting Dan, and he doesn't look too happy.
No, yeah, that's right.
Dan.
These are the kinds of things we usually keep among the anchors, but thank you for thank you for exposing that.
Circle of trust.
Yes, it has
Remember?
been violated.
Yes, totally
Rob
violated.
Marciano, thank you very much. We'll talk to you coming up in the second half hour. We do want to switch gears now, though, to the closest thing to a royal wedding, as Pippa Middleton, who's the younger sister of the Duchess of Cambridge, ties the knot today.
Yeah, Dan's been talking about this story all morning. ABC's Lama Hassan is in Inglefield, England, with what's being called Britain's wedding of the year. Lama, good morning to you.
And good morning to you guys. Yes, I bet you can't wait to hear all about it. Well, the excitement is building. The crowd of well-wishers is growing. It can only mean one thing. It's Pippa Middleton's big day. In fact, as we speak, she's tying the knot to her fiancé, James Matthews, in the church.